Well, hello, hello, hello.
Hallo, kun je mij goed zien?
Yeah, we're live, Raksha, you and I, right now.
Okay, fantastic. So this is
How
good.
are you doing?
I am doing good. What about you?
You look great tonight.
Thank you.
Good on you. Had a good day?
Yes, it was a busy, busy day. This is actually the second live speaking opportunity, so quite a day to be out there, I think.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to hear more about that in a second. First, to the order of business. This is our first Growth Stories live podcast tonight. I'm really happy to be here. Happy for you to join us. Happy for anybody out there joining us right now, potentially live, potentially later. And as we had agreed today, would be about us introducing ourselves and introducing the podcast and what it's going to be about. Tell people a little bit about like what they can expect from this, right?
Yep, that's the
Do
deal.
you have anything to add before we dive in?
No, I'm excited to just get right in, so let's get to it.
Let's do that then. All right. So, where should we start? Should we begin with a little bit of introduction of ourselves? Let's do this. I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, and then maybe you can return the favor. And I'm going to do it a little bit differently.
Hmm.
So, for the people that don't know you or don't know that much about you, Raksha, who are you, and what about you do I not yet know?
What you do not know. Okay, let's start with the people first. Let's go with the easier one.
Yeah.
Okay, so good evening. My name is Raksha Daryanani, and I am a ghostwriter and freelance journalist and a content manager in daily life.
Mhm.
I live in Barcelona, and it's a very long story how I got here, but in a nutshell, I have migrated lots of times in my life. I was born in India and I was raised in a former Dutch colony in Suriname. I'm called Suriname. And I then migrated to England for a master's degree, migrated to Barcelona, and made it my home 7 years ago.
Yep.
Um, and that's a little bit about me. If you don't know me, that's a little bit about what I am, what I do. I also run this newsletter community, which is called Reflect and Breathe. That's one of my main passions. It is a community for slowing down, for being more mindful, becoming more aware. And pretty soon we're going to have online reflection sessions. So that's something that I'm looking forward to sharing with the rest of the community.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool.
Thank
That's
you.
really nice. Yeah. Thanks. And now for the bonus part. What about you do I not yet know? I'm sure there's a lot, but what's like cool?
Oh gosh, I'm a bit I'm a bit self-taught at comedy, which you don't know as yet. So
Wait, what? Like
yes,
comedy?
comedy. Yes.
No, get out of here.
No,
Please.
no jokes, no jokes. It's something that happens impromptu at family occasions, and it's quite fun actually. But yeah,
Really?
yeah.
But wait, what does that mean? Does that mean you kind of within the family you get up and you do a little stand up bits?
Yeah, it depends on weddings or at family gatherings when we have like the whole gang together and we want to have some fun. And sometimes just a way to tease others and to bring the family together and just have a good laugh. It comes out at times. Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Amazing. I had no idea and I would never have guessed. Okay, that's cool. So we can expect some kick-ass punchlines from you every now and then
Well,
here and there.
hopefully, I've been told my humor can be a bit sinister, so I try to keep it in check.
Oh,
But
okay. I personally I really like that. The darker the better.
yeah, I think it's a good addition to life. Otherwise, it can be very depressing.
For
But
sure.
that's about me. What about you, Erin? Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so Erwin, Lima, 40 years of age, so getting pretty high up there by now. Born and raised in the Netherlands, in the Rotterdam area, Hoogvliet to be specific. My parents are from the Cape Verde Islands, so I've also got a migrant kind of background, but my life has kind of been centered here in the Netherlands. I'm a husband of a beautiful wife, the father of two beautiful children who are the light of my life. And professionally, I am an author. I am a growth storytelling, brand storytelling, marketing consultant. I have had a lot of experience in that in my career and had a lot of fun with it as well. And yeah, so I've been a marketing professional for about 10 years, written 5 books, the last of which you actually helped me present online, which was great. Thanks, both storytelling and life beyond AI. And I am also the co-founder of storylab AI, which is incidentally the logo we have up here. Which is we're gonna have to change that for the next episode. But I'm the co-founder of storylab AI, and what else? I am a big fan of comedy, actually. Huge, huge, big fan.
You have done some stand up, not stand up, but you have done some open mics yourself, right? With poetry and a bit of storytelling yourself.
Yeah, I once upon a time signed up and I tried my hand at. It was actually not exactly an open mind. It was a contest, like an open contest for the best spoken word artists in the Netherlands, and it was really really exciting to do. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. What would be your number one takeaway from that?
Uh, what would be my main takeaway from that? I think, and this is probably primed by the concept of the podcast that we're introducing today, that I'm gonna twist it to this side that I'm twisting it to now. But I sincerely think the main takeaway from that for me would be that everyone has a story to tell, and there's something about daring to step forward and daring to step onto that stage and to do your thing, to tell your story the best way that you can. Um, some people there were like me, like very unexperienced and had their little booklet there, their little their little notes, and with trembling hands are reading it off them. Other ones were like full-fledged spoken word artists, performers who were like owning the stage completely with their performance. It was beautiful to see, and but it was not so much about who's more experienced and who's better at it for me, as much as it was like an exercise in the importance of daring to share our own story. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So off with the comparison and onto the lesson or the experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So, what are we here for today, Raksha? Our growth stories live cast, our growth stories podcast. I wrote a little tidbit about it and I put it up on LinkedIn. So I'm happy to introduce, but I'm also curious, like to see to what extent would you describe it in a way that is overlapping with that, or slightly different, or like contrasting and adding to that. So I'm really curious, how would you describe it? The growth stories live cast that we're starting today.
Okay, so I would describe it in a non-technical, very holistically shaped manner, if that's okay. The
Mm-hmm.
way I see it is that the whole idea of this podcast for us was to start talking to people and learning from their experiences, and not just tell me how this was or tell me how that was, but what did it teach you in terms of growth? What were you before, and what did you become after, and why and how? And I think that why and how is what makes this podcast different. It gives people the opportunity to expand on their individual growth because it doesn't look the same for everyone. That graph that comes to mind, the one that you see in memes often where it's like a squiggly line.
Yeah, yeah.
That squiggly line is the one that we're interested in. And it's not going to be the rags to riches story. It can also be it can be exactly the opposite. It can also be something that at spiritual level. It can be at educational level. It can be at any level. So growth in its most widest and broadest applications, as such, is what I would describe it as.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I like the idea of it being not about the linear trajectory, but about whatever shape that line takes. And what I'm reading that as I'm listening to you is that, and that's one of the things that's important to me in this thing, is that there's lessons in there for anybody willing to listen. You know? And so I like that. I like that squiggly line concept of it a lot. I wonder. I wonder. I can imagine that we ourselves with this podcast are going to create a squiggly line of growth for ourselves in it. You know. So. Uh,
Absolutely. I think, coincidentally, I don't know if you can see the back, but I had this butterfly on the wall,
hmm,
and it's something that I added this year. So I've always had it at home, but it was in one of the other rooms, and I brought it out into the living room this year because I wanted to focus on growth this year because we're all in this. Sometimes we're focused on that cocoon and that part of not being visible and what has happened, and but also you also need to focus on the person that you've become and all that beauty. And I think the butterfly is a very good reminder for that.
yeah. Yeah, I like that. And when you say, when you talk about the cocoon and uh, focusing on emerging out of that cocoon this year, it makes me think of the last few years, starting basically in 2020 with COVID lockdowns. Uh,
Mhm.
I feel that for a lot of people, let me just keep it close to home. For me, uh, the years 2020 through 2023 have very much been about cocooning, and I kind of feel like for a lot of things and groups of people in the world that may have also been the case. So this concept of emerging from the cocoon, I feel like it's timely for right now.
Yeah. I think 2020 it forced us. It forced us to grow, even if we were not prepared. It forced us to leave behind old patterns, leave behind work methods, thought processes. So it really forced us to become something else and change our ways. And I think, okay, it was hard. It was very, very hard for the majority. And but we made it,
Yeah,
and we've I think we've become hopefully better versions of ourselves, and that's the version that we want to talk about in our podcast as well.
yeah, yeah, and invite people into the podcast to share their version of that with us.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, without the attendees, without a guest, there is no podcast. I mean, as much as it's entertaining for you and me to share about ourselves, the whole idea is that we bring people here who have a wider, deeper message and something that they would like to contribute with and spread light to the world with that message.
Yeah, amen, amen. And what is the podcast going to be about? What can people expect? What can they expect from us as hosts, and what can we expect from you, and what can we expect in general? Would you say?
I can tell that from us as hosts, you will get a quality podcast in the sense that you will get. It's not just going to be entertainment, but it's going to be something that you're going to walk away with. Ah, I didn't think of it that way, and I
Hmm,
think that's something unusual to add. It's not just a little story that you heard there. From my end, I would say you're going to get a lot of curious questions because that's the type of person I am. If I like a story, if I'm really into something, I will ask you lots of deep questions. You being the guest, the prospective guest, I'm hoping, who's
check.
probably tuning in tonight.
Yeah,
So I would ask lots of curious questions and get to know more and really dive deep into your experiences, into your growth, and what changed you and what brought you here, and what I could learn from it and what our listeners can learn from it, because I'm
mhm.
just facilitating, and that's the whole idea by asking these questions. What about you, Erin?
Yeah. As I'm listening to you answering this question, it sucks because it feels like you're the smart girl in class, and I have to go after you. It's, that
No,
sucks a little
see,
bit
now
because
we're not going to start comparing, because then the podcast is going to be a comparison. We don't want
yeah,
that.
that's my main goal for today. It's just to compare myself to you all the time and diminish myself. So you end up looking great. That's the. But we kind of discussed that before we went in, right? So it's I
Uh,
like how you're playing coy and innocent now. I like that. No, seriously. I was listening. Like literally, I asked you that question, and I'm starting to listen to your answer. It's like, yeah, yeah, that's the same for me. Yeah, yeah, that's the same for me. And then near the end of your bit there, I'm thinking, crap, she's gonna ask me this question, and my honest answer is gonna have to be samesies
okay, well, I'm
with
honored. Look,
what she said.
to be
You
to be
know,
honest, let's just go here. That we are at least aligned. I think that's the core message here. If we're aligned, then there's nothing to compare.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely are aligned, and yeah, no, like in all seriousness, that's what this is about for me. Like I was describing to my wife beforehand, right? Because my wife is one of the most, like, she's one of the most critical people that we have, to win over. Let's say if we can win her over to the podcast, that means like great things for us. We're gonna be stars because we can get her on board. We can get anybody on board. And I was trying to explain to her, like, why would this podcast matter? Why would anybody want to tune in and listen to it? And it's exactly what you said. It's about everybody has their own trajectory of growth in whatever realm that has been relevant to them, either throughout their life or throughout a specific period of their life. And so that area that has been relevant for them, where they have had a certain growth trajectory, can be in their personal life, can be in their business life, it can be in a specific niche in business. So, say technology or marketing. I know that you and I both know that realm a little bit. So, I'm imagining a part of our audience, maybe people that we'll have on the show, will be involved in those worlds. But it can be in a spiritual life. It can be in their life as somebody in a romantic relationship, or as a parent, or whatever type of relationship. And for me, it really is facilitating the sharing of that story to the maximum effect, where the sharing of that story actually helps the person who we're having on as a guest to reflect on their own story and potentially learn and actually be inspired by it themselves, from the way that they're telling it to us, and then also hopefully, obviously, to inspire and help other people in their own growth stories and trajectories of growth. It's funny. This is reminding me of a thing that I've noticed in working with clients when I help organizations find their brand story, as well as a thing that, again, my wife points out to me that I have a tendency of doing when I'm in conversation with people that either I barely know or I know very well, as I ask them the questions in a way that it helps them tell their own story in a new way, in a way that is new to them. And what then happens is that they can literally become surprised. You can literally see their eyes light up, and you can see them becoming inspired by their own story, which I think is one of the most beautiful things that you can have happen in conversation with a human being. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I sort of recall that when you and I first met. I don't think I've had a conversation like that before with someone who sort of reflects your own story back to you in a way that empowers you. And I think that's a very strong quality. And I'm not saying it because you're my co-host. I'm saying it as someone who's known you for a while, and I think that's something beautiful to gift someone, because you don't have that very often with people. Sometimes people just ask, "Oh, so what happened? Oh, so what happened then?" And when you grew, and then, okay, oh, very interesting. Thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
But to
Yeah.
give that person something back in response to their story, which actually empowers them, is a beautiful gift. So thank you for doing that. I think your wife is right that she points that out.
Well, thanks. Well, thanks so much, and I'll be sure to pass that on to her. Hey,
Okay.
Um, so listen, we said we were going to do an introduction.
Mhm.
I don't think we actually said how long we were going to take, but I was thinking it would be cool to cap it at maybe 45 minutes, if that's at all possible. And I'm thinking, well, there's two or three things that are going through my mind right now that I think will be cool to discuss before we wrap that up, and before I don't know, feel like we've finished the introduction and have told the story of what the podcast is going to be. Um, so a couple of thoughts, and then I'll ask you to please add to that or reflect on that as however you see fit. So a couple of thoughts that are going through my head are: I'd love for us both, maybe, to be able to give the people listening to this first session some nuggets, to give them something that they can maybe already apply, use, find inspiring, whatever. Maybe that's a story, maybe that's a place for them to go afterwards, maybe that's a handout. And I'm thinking, like, literally for me, what that might be from my end, but maybe some wheels are starting to turn in your machine right now as well. So that's one thing that I was thinking about. Another thing that I thought might be cool to, I don't know, maybe kind of tease slightly is the types of guests that we are likely to be having on over the next first few episodes. And I know I've got a couple of names in my mind with short stories attached to those that I could share, and maybe you do too, or not. And what was the other thing? I suppose. Oh, that's. I think that might be a cool question. What would be your dream guest for this podcast? And I think it would be like a cool sort of north star for us to say who our dream guest would be, or two or three of those, and to see how far along we get into actually getting them on the show at one time. So those are just some thoughts that I was thinking that might be cool for us to discuss in the next 20 or so minutes. Uh,
Sure.
what are your thoughts on that? And do you have anything cool to add maybe to that?
No, I'm good. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. We've because this is one thing. What promise that we've made each other, and a promise that we want to make to our listeners, right? Is that from every session we want them to be able to take not just, oh, that's a cool story or some inspiring stuff, but I want to have something that I feel I can apply directly, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
we're really gonna try to get that out of every episode. But I figured, why not try to get that out of the first one, right?
Okay. Okay.
Right. So if I'm asking you to think and maybe think out loud, or maybe you've been really smart and thought in silence while I was gabbering and and babbling around, what do you think that would be for you? Or if you need maybe a minute to think, I can share some stuff that I think that people could use and apply pretty practically, I suppose. Yeah. So basically, what I'm saying is, who you think should go first?
You go first.
I'll go first.
Because
I'll
then,
go.
cause then you can't say the smart girl took over.
It'd be weird if you would share my answers for this,
Yeah.
uh, and yeah. So what I'm thinking is, well, as we shortly touched on earlier, one of the things that we've already shared together is we did a book presentation, right? The English book presentation for my latest two English books, being Life Beyond AI, which is about the current and expected future impact of AI technologies on ourselves as human beings, individually, in organizations, and in society, which I really feel strongly is important and relevant book for now. But the second book attached to that, which is growth storytelling, and it's very much attached to the theme and the overarching topic of our podcast, which is using the transformational power of storytelling for personal and business growth, which is the subtitle for that book, growth storytelling. And yeah, as I said, like I feel strongly, because that's what Life Beyond AI is about. I feel very, very strongly that we need a new story at all those various levels that we exist at, as again as individuals, in groups, families, organizations, and broader society. I really feel we need a new story. The question in Life Beyond AI is what is the story of the future you want to see, and what is your part in that story? And growth storytelling, I feel that book is like condensed version of the built up knowledge and experience that I have in coaching people and organizations in finding their own story. And in the 9 chapters that it has, and you go through it in I think about an hour, I strongly feel like you actually are going through a fairly strong, deep exercise in reflecting on your own story. So if you're at a point in your life where you feel like you want to start finding your own story, or that you feel like, hey, maybe it's time to redefine or reiterate or rewrite my own story, I feel that that book is very helpful. And it so happens that it's available for free on my website, www.lifebeyond.one. So I think that could be like a cool resource for me to divert people to right now. And otherwise, if you're looking for a quick win, I suppose, you could also go to my website, lifebeyond.one, type in brand storytelling canvas in the search bar, and you can download a canvas that I literally use when I'm building a brand strategy, brand story for myself, for a company, for anybody else. And there's an article where you can download that template and you can use it, and the article explains how to use that and it's probably a little bit of a quicker one. So those are the, I guess, the two main things that pop up into my head right now, which I think are tied to the theme of growth storytelling, finding your story, and going through the power of finding and telling that story. So yeah, that would be it. My growth storytelling book and the brand growth storytelling canvas on my site. Both free to download and use. Yeah.
Fabulous. Thank you for that. I've particularly enjoyed your book. I mentioned when I was presenting the book life book launch event,
Hmm.
it was something that struck to me was the ease in which you have portrayed the ideas, and also the relevance of the topics that you've brought up. I mean, AI is very much present, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon, and we have to adjust to this reality. And so is technology. It's just taking over a lot of the simple things that we were doing before, which
Hmm.
is great, but it's also creating a sort of barrier in between the people that are usually supposed to be talking to each other, and then there's technology in there, and then it
Hmm.
creates that innate connection that you were actually able to have before. So that's something to be mindful of, and I think you bring that across very nicely.
Oh, thanks so much. That's great. That's great to have you say that.
You're welcome. Um, One thing I would like to add, a takeaway from today's podcast. I write a lot about reflecting and breathing, and why do I say reflect and breathe? Because we are just, most of us are just going through life. We're
Hmm.
just, it's a subconscious on 90%, right? It's okay. I have to get up. I get up, I brush my teeth, I shower, I have my breakfast, I run out of the door. I get to the workplace, or maybe I get up and work from home, which is another reality that we are having now. And then my day passes based on tasks. I have to complete so many things. Then I get to some people get to collect their, bring their child home from daycare or from grandma and grandpa, and then it's like I need to do the supermarket run, or I'll just sit and do my accounts. So it's
Don't
all
forget the
mostly.
laundry.
Sorry.
Don't forget the laundry, the insistent, everyday, never ending drudgery of laundry. Sorry. Continue.
Oh, I don't do laundry. The husband does that, so it's not really bothersome.
His husband,
Oh,
same thing.
so see, we are very blessed wives. We have the husbands who do that. So it's not a thing I think of.
I guess it's not a thing women do.
No. I'm only messing. Look, when he's not home, I have to do it. So yes, I do, but it's not. It doesn't dominate my thinking as opposed to I do more supermarket runs than laundry. So there's another conundrum there. But yeah, so you get the point. The point
Yeah.
is that we all have something that gets us really stuck in, right? It can be the annoying laundry. It can be the supermarket run, the multiple tasks at work, whatnot. So we're running on autopilot all the time, and in that autopilot, we're not realizing that life is passing us by. And that
Mm.
is the reason why I started to write about these topics, because I wanted to slow down more and experience life more and connect the dots more. And then my husband actually taught me something very beautiful, which I would like to share with the audience today, that you can only collect the dots in retrospect. And that
Mm.
was very nice, because sometimes we look at the past and we regret things. Oh, I wish I could have gone to, I wish I hadn't spent so much money on an HR degree. I wish I hadn't dated Mr. X or Miss Y. I wish I didn't have to live in this community which stifled everything out of me. I wish I had done this and I wish I'd done that. But then if we pause and just reflect in, okay, when this happened, when I was living in this community, what did I learn from it? And what led to the next step? So because I lived in this community, I learned about, for example, cultural awareness. And that cultural awareness helped me prepare for a master's degree. And that master's degree taught me about writing. And that writing brought me where I am. So reflecting is very powerful. And if you do that, if you connect the dots in retrospect, you will only see how it has led you to where you are. And there will be no room for regret, and there will be no room for resentment.
Mm.
So that is something that I would like to share, and you can do it anywhere, anytime. Always connect the dots in retrospect, and you feel instantly relieved.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I like that. Almost, you almost sounded like a, and this is not the joke. Although it's for sure going to come across as if it is. You almost sounded like a guru when you said there will be no more room for regret and there will be no more room for resentment. But yeah, it sounds, But at the same time, it's like I recognize it. I recognize the way that you describe it. And what I was also thinking, there's two things. One is you can do this at any time, sure. The other day, I don't know where I was reading it, and I'm pretty sure it was not in your newsletter, but please correct me if I'm wrong. Where somebody said was talking about the life river exercise. Have you heard about this?
That wasn't me. Yeah.
It wasn't you. So apparently this is one of the exercises that exist, and I've done a couple, and I've shared a couple here and there, but I don't have them ready to share right now. So this is one of the exercises where you draw out a line of the river of your life, and then you build various streams. So one will be connected to your health, and one will be connected to your maybe your profession, maybe one will be connected to your relationships, and you mark the various places in the various streams where there's maybe a bumpy patch with rocks or a murky patch with some sand that created mud or whatever, to symbolize the different moments you had in your life, so you can kind of get this overview for yourself, right? And I thought, oh, that's a nice model, a nice
Mhm.
exercise that you can easily comprehend, and you don't even need to have it in front of your face written out exactly. You can memorize it fairly quickly and just do that. So I was thinking, do you have any exercise maybe at hand or handy, or maybe that you could share with the audience afterwards that is comparable to that, easy to do, where you do, map out those lines and connect the dots, as you say.
Oh, wow. I don't have one at hand, but if you log into the newsletter, if you log into Substack, you'll find almost every post has a little reflection underneath
Mm,
it. So you're welcome to try any of those, and they're divided in different topics. So there's one about being setting the right intention for the morning before going to work. If that appeals to you, there's one on removing judgment, because we're always judging, aren't we? We look at something and we think, oh, pink jacket, who wears pink? And then there it goes, you know?
yeah,
So there's different ones there. I don't have one concrete at hand,
sure.
but you're welcome to log into there. And for the next one, probably I can prepare one and keep it ready, not a problem.
Cool. And that newsletter of yours, Reflect and Breathe, which
Hmm.
by the way I love, is free, right?
It's free for now. There is a paid version which will give you access to the Reflect and Breathe community where we're going to do online reflection sessions.
Mm,
So that's going to be the paid part, and you're going to get some more resources. But the posts are free to read for now. Yeah.
cool. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's good to know. I think it'd be nice to add the link to it around the bottom of this post online when we do have it up. I think that'd be cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll do that.
Is that Mr. Raksha in the background, or is that somebody else who's
That
doing this?
is the husband indeed.
Oh,
Yes.
that's so cool. That's so
Yeah.
cool. Well, I can't wait to have him on whenever he's ready to join us in full fledged and full flying colors.
We still have to convince him. He just came back from work today, so today I will try to coax him into the. You've seen me on there tonight. Can you be the next one?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that would be
Yeah.
great. I'd love to hear. He's a pilot, right? I'd really love to hear his story.
Yes, that's why I was kind of. It sounded kind of ironic when I said we run on autopilot because
Mm,
he says that people assume that what pilots do is all autopilot, so it's
yeah,
not
yeah,
true. So, yeah.
yeah. I would be very curious to hear about his story. So hey, thank you for sharing that about the reflect and breathing and about how that works when you look at your own story in retrospect. I love the fact that your husband triggered that thought. I really like that. I wanted to mention this thing about your newsletter, and then I'm going to ask you one more question about it, and then let's move on to the next thing. The one thing that I really like about your newsletter is that thing that you just mentioned, where you have a reflective question or reflective exercise near the end of it. I feel
Hmm.
like I feel like that answers the promise of the title of your newsletter, and it really helps. it really helps us achieve that thing that you just so eloquently described, how important and relevant and necessary it is for us in these times that we're living in to do just that, to breathe and reflect. And I haven't had the chance to let you know yet, but as you know, I'm going to start my own newsletter soon as well. One of the things, probably the main thing that I'm going to be stealing from your approach, is to add something like that to the end of each or almost every post I'm going to put up on there. I really like that. And last question about your newsletter adventure, and then let's move on to the next part. Is apart from what you just described, that insight about life in general, I suppose. What else has the process of starting a newsletter and continuing on doing that week after week for the past few months, if I'm not mistaken? What has that taught you so far? What have you learned from that? What insight about yourself or anything else have you gleaned from it?
So yeah, it's been 6 months now, and
6 months already. Wow.
yeah, I started in October last year. And one thing I've learned is that sometimes we have a thought or we have an experience and we dismiss it. We think, so who wants to even talk about that, or who even thinks about that? Or it's probably just a thought that just like a shooting star you see for 2 seconds, and after that you can forget about it.
Hmm.
But if you take the time to write it down, and if you take the time to actually ponder on it and write about it, you will be amazed by how many people actually resonate and write back to you. And I think that's been the most beautiful thing when people have replied to me. I get messages, I get emails, I get WhatsApp messages, because I have my first subscribers, like most people, were family
Hmm.
and family members. And a lot of them send me like this WhatsApp message saying, "Oh, I really like this," or "I'm going to share this with my child," or "I'm going to share this with my husband because I think he needs to see it." And I think that's really beautiful because it gives you this sense of I'm not alone thinking this, and there's more people who benefit from this. So I'm doing something for the community out there, and for the greater good. And I think that's what's been the most profound lesson. So it's also the reason why I'm keeping the posts free, so that at least one post a week is free. If I add a second one, that will be paid. But for now, it's once a week because I think it's very nice to earn money. Everyone likes to earn money. I'm not an exception.
Sure.
But when there's a central message of peace, of harmony, of reflection, of slowing down, of becoming a better human being through awareness, then you can be a bit generous there.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. It reminds me of one of the things that I've tried to reinforce in people in workshop sessions where I teach people a little bit about, well, actually about writing, just like getting started with putting some thoughts on paper in a way that you might feel comfortable sharing in something as simple as a short social media post, a tweet, a little Facebook update, or up to short little blog articles or stories. And one of the main things that I do try to remind people of when I do those is you never know who's going to be touched by that weird thought you had or that weird experience you had that you're writing down right now, that you think or might think nobody is wanting to hear that, nobody is waiting for that, nobody is going to find value in it. You'd be surprised, and the thing is, you don't know beforehand. So just trust in the story that wants to come and get it out there. And once it's out there, and it's not up to you anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. You've shared your message, you've shared something that you thought was beneficial, and then whoever will will reap from it, that's for them.
Yeah, yeah. And in a lot of ways, that applies to a lot of things concerning human creativity, uh, poetry, comedy, if you will, art, as in visual art, music, even something as creating a podcast. We're just what we're doing right now. It's just we're daring to step forward and to try this, and we're going to do this as best we can. and people will find it or not, and people that do find it will like it and appreciate it or not, but it's out there, and it's not up to us anymore. So kudos to us for practicing what we preach, I suppose.
Absolutely. You got to start somewhere, so
Yeah,
why not?
yeah, cool. All right, so final 5 to maybe 10 minutes. Um, what can people expect specifically? What types of guests, or if you're ready to mention one or two names, who can people actually expect to see as guests and to hear the story of on our podcast?
I'm not going to mention names as yet, but I would
Hmm.
like to keep that a secret. But
Yeah.
I would like to share some things they've done, and I think that would be very nice. I have thought of adding to our podcast or inviting to our podcast mindfulness trainers, so people who actually have done the hard work and know how to teach us a thing or two. There are also people who are parenting experts because I think that's a hot topic nowadays. You know, we're the new generation of parents, the newer generation of parents is very interested in how to do things right. I think
Mm.
you and I had this conversation before also where you shared, you know, the how it is to be a parent. I'm not a parent, so I can't speak of that, but it would be very nice for our listeners to you know, if they're open to that, to learn from someone who can share what works, what doesn't work, and how to change that. There are also um, other coaches like personal development coaches, and so there's a whole array. And then again, I don't want to confine it
Hmm.
to people who have, you know, a fancy title or a fancy position. This is also an open invitation to the audience of this podcast, as we discussed, that if you have somebody you would think has a lovely growth story to share, or if you are someone who has a lovely growth story to share, get in touch with us. That's also something that we would want to honor because there is no label on growth, is there?
Amen. Amen. Yeah, love that. Love that. All right, so to summarize quickly, from your end, let's say we can expect potentially some people that are deeply steeped, well versed in mindfulness, in personal development, and for instance, parenting. That's I think which are all uh, well, aside from maybe parenting, because for some people who are not parents themselves, I imagine for some of those people that's less relevant or less interesting. Although at the same time, some people that are not parents themselves are going to find value in it because it's gonna help you understand the world and understand humans, potentially even yourself better if you understand more about parenting psychology. But apart from that, like mindfulness, like as we've discussed, is something that is so important for our day and age. And I truly believe that. And personal development is, I mean, at least in the West, and I'm not sure to speak about other regions in the world, so I'm going to limit myself to that. At least in the West, for a large part, we're lucky to be able to navigate the upper echelons of the Maslow pyramid of human needs. So it's about personal development. It's about personal growth to a large extent. So who is that not relevant to? So from my end, off the top of my head, there are people invested in business growth, and I'm really curious to know about people who are coming at this from a perspective of business growth is how do you personally relate the principles that you've applied or seen working for business growth to personal growth, or what how do the two sort of bubbles of growth or areas of growth in your life influence each other, and how do they differ, and how are they the same? um, and one of the topics that is really relevant to me is how do we grow and or evolve as groups of human beings in terms of organizations, but maybe broader societies. And one of the guests that has pretty much confirmed, or actually has confirmed, that he's going to be on is Paul Bessems, who is an international speaker and consultant on blockchain and other technologies. But for me, most relevantly and most interestingly, he is a great guy. He is He is, if there was a picture in the dictionary under the word erudite, it would be Paul Bessem's face. And he's the founder of the Economics Foundation, which I'm a partner of, by the way, full disclosure. But I really believe in its core mission, which is how do we use human creativity, new ways of organization, like new organizational systems, and relevant technologies in such a way that we create a sustainably more fairly distributed welfare and well-being in society. And I think that's a beautiful way of looking at technological innovation, and I think a necessary way of looking at technological innovation. And I think, as I've shared with you, what I'd really like to discuss with Paul is again, how does his journey of being a student first and being an entrepreneur in tech, he was I believe IT consultant, to being the founder of that foundation and doing the work that they do. How does that story arc, what does that look like, and what does that mean meant for him personally, and what is the connection between his personal growth there and the growth that he's been able to establish in the world, so that's Paul. One other is Gladys P. Nutt, which is a complete wacko weirdo, one of my favorite and best and most fun friends that I have, who flipped her life around from being an IT consultant as well to going back, basically back deep into her childhood and figuring out what is it that she really wants to be and bring into this world, and flipped her life around completely, became solely invested in sketching kawaii figures and characters, and now has one of the biggest, most popular lines of kawaii characters and figures and merchandise in the world, which is amazing. And there are a few stories that I know of personally that are about a person following their heart completely, but then seeing it through to fruition completely. That I know personally. So I would love to have her on, and I believe that, like, for me and the people that know us, it's been very inspiring story, and I love for a lot more people to hear that story. And there's a couple more, but I don't want to get ahead of myself, so I'll just leave it at those two confirmed. Yes, maybe I can confirm one guest ahead of himself, which is Brian, the CEO of storylab AI, who can tell us a lot about professional growth, and and by way of doing that is going to be sharing a lot of marketing and business wisdom with those of us that are interested in that. And Brian hasn't officially officially said he would do it, but I'm kind of doing it for him. So I'm hoping, Brian, when you see this, that you'll be happy and smiling and chuckling listening to this. Otherwise, we're going to have a slightly awkward conversation, but I'm sure we won't. I'm sure Brian will be very happy to do it. So yeah, that's it for me, from my end.
Hashtag no pressure, right, Erwin?
Exactly.
Way to
See you
go.
next time, Brian.
Okay, so I think as the listeners would have probably understood by now, this is not going to be super serious podcast. There's going to be lots of humor because you have two of us here who like to share a good laugh. So bear in mind this is going to be growth infused with humor, and I'm liking that already.
Amen, amen. And I'm also hoping we're gonna get somebody to cry at some point. Hopefully, in the first like 4 or 5 episodes, that'd be awesome. I mean, can
No,
you imagine the numbers if we get that? Let's go for it, man. Let's go for it.
no, that's like those cringe TikTok videos where people are crying and their cat soothes them. Please, no.
Unless if it's real, right? Unless if it's like, I mean, and sometimes this happens. Sometimes you'll have a conversation and you'll be so engaged and engrossed in it,
Yeah.
and something in whatever somebody's making you think about before answering, or something in the way that somebody else is speaking, like it touches you,
Yeah.
and that's like one of the most beautiful things that you can have happen in a conversation. And so why not on a podcast, right?
Yes,
Anyway,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Raksh, it's been my pleasure sharing this introduction with you. We're going to do a quick summary, and I'm going to do a little tease of the next episode, which, by the way, our guest for the next episode, ladies and gentlemen watching this right now, is going to be the lovely, the elegant, the eloquent Raksha Daryanani herself, because we said we are going to go and do an extra introduction, and also because I honestly feel that for as much or as little actually as you've spoken to yourself and your own story and the things that you have to share with our audience, and I believe also teach our audience about writing, about storytelling, about culture and understanding culture and how it helps us understand self and self as relating to the world, and how that all infuses into how we build a story for us personally, and how we build the specific stories that we infuse out of that. I think there's a very 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 extensive like body of knowledge somewhere in there hidden that we probably won't be able to get even 20% out of you in a session of about 45 minutes to an hour, but I am willing to try. So that with your if you agree, and I think we kind of already had, that will be our next session, right?
Yes, yes, yes. I have agreed to that. I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually honored that you asked. So absolutely, count me in.
Yeah, great, great. And I really think that'd be cool. And I am still kind of playing with the idea. I'm not sure that I've shared this with you already. I'm kind of playing with the idea of having that session be part me interviewing you, and part maybe us doing the thing live, where you maybe like a part of that session would be like a live workshop where you help me improve my own personal brand storytelling chops, or however you see fit. You know what I mean?
Okay, okay.
Sound good?
Yeah, yeah. We can talk about the structure and everything.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Cool. All
Okay.
right. Summarizing, this has been our first session for the Growth Stories livecast. As you are noticing, if you are watching us live right now, it's a session that's going to be live every 2 weeks. And then we're going to take down the recording, take down the audio, and spread it through YouTube and Spotify, where if either of those is your favorite platform for consuming podcast content, you'll be able to find us there. You'll also be able to find us on at least my website, lifebeyond.one, and on storylab.ai and some other places, mainly my social channels. I'm imagining, Raksh, your social channels as
Yes,
well,
yes,
right?
yes.
And
I get paid for the affiliate program, right? That's how it works.
you get paid for the affiliate program?
Yeah.
Whose affiliate program? Just the affiliate program. Yeah, 100%. You get paid 100% for the affiliate program. Yeah,
Okay.
but was
Okay.
that even a question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm just reasserting that.
Cool, cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, gotta get that money, girl.
Yeah.
So share through those platforms. And oh, and what is the podcast about? It's about growth stories. It's about everybody has a story to tell. It's about we need a new story, but nobody is going to be able to come up with that new story that we need all by themselves. So this is a thing that we got to do together, co-creatingly. And
Yeah.
that's our invitation to you as a listener or as a guest. Please come share the stories of your own growth in order to facilitate, inspire the growth of other people in any realm. Right? Would that be a fair summary according to
That would
you?
be a fair summary, and we're super excited what you're going to share with us and what we can learn from you. More importantly.
Amen. Amen. All right. Miss Daryanani, do you have anything of the utmost importance to add before we wrap this session up?
No, I am honored to be a part of this. I am looking forward to building meaningful connections with people who become our guests, and also to with the listeners, because without a listener, there is no podcast, there is no message to be shared. So, thank you so much for giving us your time and attention. And I look forward to being of service.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Um, I second that. Samesies, what she said. Uh, See you next time. Thanks so much. This has been fun. I'm looking
See you
forward to
next
next week.
time. Same here. Bye bye.
Bye bye.